What is it about a carnival? It remains a strange and alluring fascination, made all the more so by its peripatetic nature. But what was the truth behind the painted facade of these itinerant entertainments? Let's meet the fools, the monsters and the marvels of the carnival, here on Things Visible and Invisible. Ridenour is a writer, artist and cultural provocateur known for his exploration of dark folklore, underground performance art and subversive cultural movements. His Krampus and the Old Dark Christmas, Roots and Rebirth of the Folkloric Devil, is considered by critics the definitive authority on pagan winter celebrations. His latest book, however, is entitled A Season of Madness, Fools, Monsters and Marvels of the Old World Carnival. And he joins me down the line from his home in Los Angeles. Al, welcome to Things Visible and Invisible.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Al, having looked at your book, I think we better define our terms here. Most people think carnival is either a party before Lent or something to do with a sort of bearded lady sitting in a tent somewhere. Neither of those really feature in your latest work.
Well, the party before Lent, that gets close to it. That's some of it. The bearded ladies and the tilt-a-whirls and cotton candy is not what I'm writing about. I actually have it in me to write a book about that, the freak shows and so forth. And I had so many people assume that's what I'm writing about because in America and English-speaking culture, where you are and where we are, carnival is very much just not really a thing, which sort of freed me up to introduce people to a lot of exciting things they're not at all aware of. But yes, a party before Lent starts it, and Americans are aware of it in terms of what the Mardi Gras in New Orleans, and that's sort of a shortened, small version of it. But I go way beyond that. We go into the history of carnival going back to the Roman Empire. Questionable how much we can establish there, but then we also go geographically. I'm very expansive. I go a lot towards Eastern Europe too, because a lot of history seems to be preserved there more so in the West.
Well, let's move back in time, Alan. Let's go back to the Greco-Roman world. They like to party. Was a carnival just an excuse for a bit of a knees up?
Well, so the Greco-Roman world. My book does start with ancient Rome, pre-Christian Rome, and there's a lot of theories. Saturnalia was one of the suggestions. Lupercalia was another suggestion. I don't think either of those are. There's a lot of writing about those. The Victorians were very excited about how naughty those were and how decadent they were. But what really survived from the Roman Empire, from the pagan era, was the Calends celebration. That's the January calends. The Roman calendar had a calends, a first day of the month celebration for every month, but the New Year's calends was the really important one, and that was celebrated in a way that feels like carnival. So there would be riotous gatherings in the streets, crazy costumes, satiric and bawdy songs, and also the songs have been used to harass people in power too. So carnival has this whole kind of leveling effect and attacks on social norms. And so the calends actually resembles our idea of carnival. Oh, I have a plane flying over me in Los Angeles. I don't know if you can hear that.
That's okay.
The calends sort of gave birth to the Feast of Fools, which kind of then spilled into northern carnival celebrations. And then we had other things going on in Italy that are a little different.
But how much of these carnival celebrations in Europe were simply a celebration, just simply a party? And how much were they a sort of, I suppose, a way of expressing something of the culture, the folklore, the religious sensibilities of the people that were engaged in these carnival activities?
Well, the religious sensibilities in the period that I cover, once I finished talking about Calends, were Catholic, going back in history. So, carnival celebration is very tied into Catholic culture and the idea of Lent. So, as you said earlier, it's the party before the fast of Lent. So, all of the things that were forbidden in Lent were indulged in crazily, overindulged in leading up to Lent. So, the Catholic culture has very much formed it. There are, I know that my book has a lot of, it's sort of marketed as a book on paganism, and there are a lot of pagan threads in this story, but you can't understand carnival culturally unless you understand that it is the word itself. Carne levare means to lift away meat, so it's the word Latin for the beginning of Lent. So it means the eve of the lifting of meat. So. But there are folkloric strands. So some of the characters that I write about in my book, the first half of the book is sort of a history to give us a little background, and then the second half, roughly, of the book is looks at different geographic areas and their celebrations. And in those, we have different kind of folkloric costumed figures like the Krampus from my previous book that comes from the local folklore that is pagan, or at least not strictly, well, the Krampus even has a very Catholic element, but a lot of the characters do kind of borrow from folkloric figures, so beyond the religious framework. And also a lot of the, I should say, also say that a lot of the Eastern, because I write a lot about Eastern Europe, then it's also the Orthodox Christian framework, but they also have Lent, so it's basically the same idea.
And I mean, within that Christian framework, then, be it in the Eastern Orthodox or in the Western Latin Church, is carnival a kind of constant sort of the flesh and the spirit sort of bouncing off each other and sort of being incarnated, if you like, in these carnival activities?
Very much so, and it's very much the flesh. The word is in there, meat. Is in there, and so some of the German carnival was really formative on Europe, on the continental on the carnival. Again, you're lately Protestant countries, and America don't have this, but the German and Germany, of course, went Protestant too. But before that, they'd shaped a lot of what carnival would be. Venice was important before that, but Venice is a city that's laid out along canals and doesn't really have the same sorts of civic kind of space where you could celebrate. So Germany actually formed a lot of the things that are sort of typify carnival in Europe. So in Germany, they it is very much the German figure of carnival is the fool. To us, we call it a jester, but the fool is the iconic embodiment of carnival. And the fool does everything the opposite way of what civilized Catholic Christian people would do. So the fool is also equated with the devil. So you often see fools and devils running around in parades. I write about the Schembartlauf, which was a 15th and 16th century parade in Nuremberg, which had spectacular floats. And that was the first real appearance of fools that in the carnival context. We also had fools as members of the king's court. But the fool sort of made himself iconic there, and he was always running side by side with the devil. There's actually a whole theology of the fool in Catholic thinking. Augustine called the carnival. It was the devil's world. So and it was actually very serviceable to the Christian theology, because you would go crazy in the devil's world, and then you'd probably burn yourself out. You'd be quite happy to, maybe, if you celebrated it correctly, you'd be very tired of it, and you'd be happy to just have a little calm Lenten time. So, yes, so Catholic culture was very involved in German carnival, Italian carnival, and those formative countries, and then continued to be with the obligations of Lent and throughout Europe.
So would it be fair to say then, Al, that the sort of origins of carnival, or how carnival developed, certainly in the medieval period, was sort of a Catholic theology was underpinning it? The good, the evil, the certain discernible characters that would have clear definition theologically. And was there a kind of a way, I mean, the medieval world was full of, I mean, it was full of people who couldn't read and write, which we have to remember. Was it a kind of tableau, if you like, a kind of educational element to teaching the masses about the excesses of the flesh as opposed to what they should be concentrating on in Lent, etc.?
Well, it was more than a picture, an image. It was a lived experience. So,
Right.
yes, what I was saying a moment ago, it's like people would go through this sort of revelry and this sort of overindulgence. They'd feel sick and ready to be devout for the next 40 days. So it was very much, it was more than images. It was lived experience.
Right. And obviously, the whole Catholic world of the medieval world was very hierarchical and very structured, with a very clear theological hierarchy to the way the society was structured. How did the kind of excesses of Carnival enter into that? How did they confront that, or were they actually part of that stratified society?
It was a reaction of the laity, of the people. It wasn't a top-down. It was definitely, Carnival was not a top-down imposition. It's similar to the Krampus tradition in my earlier book. It was sort of an expression. The theology was out there, the thinking was out there, the dogma, but the people kind of used that, and then they turned it to their own purposes. It indirectly inspired a lot of this. So it was a creation of the people, and a common theory about Carnival was that it's a safety valve, a social safety valve. So all of these things, the indulgences of Carnival would allow the people to go through Lent obediently, and so you'd let and a lot of what was happening during Carnival was. Well, it wasn't condoned, let's just say. It was sort of going a little further with the idea than maybe was intended, but very much an organic thing, very much a thing of the people, very much a kind of thing from the gut, really. These, the sort of urges of the gut and the body would be expressed. Carnival is a celebration of the body. It's about, overindulgence, eating and sex and drinking. So these are things that are not thought out; they just occur. So Carnival's very instinctual in that way.
So, what was the attitude in your researches, Al, of the church authorities? I mean, were they just indulgent that this was something that they would have to put up with, or as you say, I mean, there's an interesting concept there about a safety valve that maybe it worked for the church in the sense that a hedonistic Shrove Tuesday maybe would make a very penitential Lent.
Yes. Who hasn't been very penitential when they have a hangover? It's sort of natural kind of scheme. It worked better in a Catholic setting. So the Schembadlauf I mentioned earlier in Nuremberg, this is in the throes of the Protestant Reformation, and what ended it was the Protestant influence. So in your history too, I mean, obviously a lot of the old festivals were killed out during by Cromwell and so forth, and then some of it came back, thank goodness, for King Charles II. But they had the same situation in Germany, in Nuremberg. There was a very prominent Protestant preacher in Nuremberg, which was largely, it was probably about half and half Catholic Protestant, and he was mocked as part of the staged festivities. They would have these floats they called hells. A hell, which was constructed in the shape of a wheeled ship. This metaphor of the ship of fools was what it was based on. And on the deck of the ship, in the middle of the Nuremberg plaza, there was a ship manned by devils and fools, and the captain of the ship was the Osiander, Andreas Osiander, who was the leading Protestant theologian of the city, who was becoming more and more influential. And he was represented by an actor who was preaching, and he was preaching from a back. He either was preaching a nonsensical sermon from a Bible, or he had a backgammon board, which was considered sinful. Gaming was considered sinful, and he was using that. So this was obviously the old Catholic influence, sort of thumbing their nose at this new Protestant regime. But unfortunately, it led to all sorts of the police or the city council guard were sent out. There were riots, sort of semi-riots, and they never did this festival again. And it was there are wonderful books of this of the Schembart Festival. It's won over a couple of centuries, sort of spanning the turn of the century. And they had the most fantastic costumes and floats, these hells. But that was the last one because the Protestants didn't want to be made fun of. So there was something more accommodating to the old ways in Catholic culture, which is why probably it's, obviously the carnival has survived in Catholic cultures more because it has sort of a turn the other way or understand its social purpose, which didn't happen in our Protestant countries.
Unfortunately, Al, we have come to the end of this episode, unbelievably. Tell people where they can find out more about you and also where they can pick up a copy of your wonderful book.
Well, my book, A Season of Madness, Fools, Monsters, and Marvels of the Old World Carnival is available at any good bookstore, but also available on Amazon here and abroad, in America and abroad, and I think other online bookstores. You can find out more about me through my podcast website, Bone and Sickle, boneandsickle.com. And you can hear more of my explorations of folklore in that show.
For now, Al, thank you so much for coming on Things Visible and Invisible.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Things Visible and Invisible. We're dedicated to uncovering phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality, from ancient enigmas and paranormal encounters to scientific anomalies and forgotten histories. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysterious and unexplained, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell to stay updated on future explorations. Have a personal experience or story that aligns with our investigations? We'd love to hear from you. Visit our website at tvi.show and reach out through our contact form. While we can't feature every submission, we review them all, and your story might be featured in an upcoming episode. To support our continued investigations, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter or channel member. Your contributions make these explorations possible and give you access to exclusive content, early releases, and monthly behind-the-scenes discussions with our team. Don't forget to check out our merch store. We've got everything from TVI branded t-shirts and hoodies to stickers and coffee mugs, perfect for showing your support while keeping the mysteries close. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time as we continue to explore the things visible and invisible.